Sorry about that, Mr. Kennedy. I just lost the volume. Do you want to, I may have missed some things that you had stated.
No, I was just going to say you can start us off and then I'll kind of go into the presentation.
Hence the dead air of no speaking. Good morning, everyone. We so appreciate you all being here. We're very excited for our reopening and wanted to provide parents an opportunity with some information, give you some insight on the changes that are made, that have been made with the school to make sure that we have a safe opening for our students and staff. I would like to acknowledge we had a reopening committee that we met twice a week for this past month, received a lot of feedback information from teachers. And I also want to congratulate Mr. Kennedy. He's done a phenomenal job in helping us communicate information and also with this presentation, as well as reading, how many pages are that book? The principal handbook?
Well, it started with 148 pages and then there kept being guidance added. So I kept having to go back to the printer because I don't do well reading stuff on the computer. So it's currently at 198 pages of guidance for the reopening.
So obviously you can tell that not only has CPS, Network One, which Sauganash School is a part of, as well as our staff here at Sauganash, we've added a lot of information. As you know, with COVID, it's been a revolving, ongoing, and things change. So flexibility is definitely the key. But I hopefully think today the reopening presentation will answer a lot of your questions. I do know that Mr. Kennedy asked for questions to be submitted. And again, it's Thursday and we will have our second session on Tuesday. So any updated questions or information will be added and also communicated to you via our newsletter as well. So Mr. Kennedy, I'm gonna let you take the reins here and go through our presentation.
Yeah, just one last reminder that we are recording this session so we can post in the newsletter. In addition to what Mrs. Munn said, you know, a lot of the questions that were submitted were repeat questions, you know, parents that had a lot of the same questions. So that's why we kind of asked for them ahead of time. If time permits, we'll obviously let you unmute or type in the chat towards the end for additional questions that maybe weren't answered in the presentation. And then in the meantime, before our Tuesday night session, if you would like to submit questions via that Google form, I'll also include that in tomorrow's newsletter as well, just so we can get any and all questions answered, you know, before and make sure everyone's comfortable as we approach February 1st. So again, thank you for being here. It's 8:50 now, so we'll get started. Okay, so here's the first slide. So the hybrid versus learn at home was sent out, you know, sometime mid-November, early December, to parents via Aspen. So whatever parent was the #1 contact on Aspen should have been the one that received the email. I know there was a couple parents, or more than a couple, that maybe didn't receive it. At the school level, we were able to submit their determination for them. So as it stands now, we have 603 students, I believe is the number. Yeah, 605. So we had 197 students elect for Learn at Home all 5 days. 406 elect for the hybrid. You can see the percentages to the right. And again, remember Wednesday is an all virtual day, including students and staff at home. So that's the deep clean day in between the two shift groups. So they are calling shift A, and I'll get to that in the next slide, Monday, Tuesday, and shift B, Thursday, Friday. Now, I know there are some parents that elected to choose hybrid because you guys had to fill this out so far in advance. And I know there are a handful or, you know, some that may elect to switch their determination from Learn at Home. So that is currently frozen. CPS is not allowing us to make that change yet. I'm guessing we'll get more guidance in our meeting today. But if you are a parent who elected your kids for hybrid and you would like to change to Learn at Home, there will be an opportunity to do that. It will not be reciprocated the other way. So unfortunately, if you're in that Learn at Home column, due to all the planning that we've done up to this point with some pretty fixed hybrid group numbers, we're not allowing to add any more groups to that hybrid. So if that makes sense. And I'll clarify as we go through the presentation. So, we're super excited about the progress we made up to this point. I think our teachers, our students, obviously all of you parents have done a phenomenal job in, making sure that quality learning is taking place. And I think we've seen that at every grade level. And, the resounding thing that I've heard over and over is I can't believe, how much the kids are learning, whether it's from different parents or, the teachers, et cetera. So that's something we're really proud of. And that doesn't get done without, a collaborative effort from everyone, including you obviously, making sure the kids have a nice routine at home. So we're really excited of where we are on January 14th and, how much we've accomplished up to this point. And, this is just going to be a minor change so that we can continue the great learning we're doing. In saying that, we're really excited about the schedule. So the way we created the schedule was with the assumption that this hybrid was going to happen eventually. So, taking into account, we were really excited to do the on the hour, top of the hour, each of your classes would start. We didn't want kids over analyzing, I have to be here at 10:15 and here at 10:40 and here at, so that was our whole premise in keeping it on the hour at the hour. So we're really excited with this shift from fully remote learning to hybrid, and taking into account we still have 197 kids, which that number may grow, learning from home. We want to make sure it's an equitable teaching model for everyone. So the schedule should be very conducive for this transition. So a couple minor changes, and the only reason these minor changes happen for the schedule is we would not have the supervision to cover. Right now we have the entire school, including the teachers and staff, eating from 11 to 12. When we're in the building, albeit 211 kids on Monday and Tuesday and 204 kids on Thursday, Friday, we still need that supervision of the non-teaching staff members to watch the students while they're eating and also for recess. So that's why you're going to see a couple minor changes with that, and it's all based on the lunch period so that we can have the proper supervision. You'll see at the bottom, CPS has instructed and recommended schools, because it is a big transition, to do a shortened bell schedule on Wednesday. So I'll get to more of that in the later slides, but that will be probably the biggest change, because everything else is pretty much status quo for most grades. So, in saying that, here's the primary schedule, which we're super excited to say that it will not change at all. So right now, everyone in kindergarten, first and second has their schedule that they've been running the entire time, all the way since September 5th. It will not change one iota for K1 and 2. So that's something we're super jacked about. The difference is the students that are coming in for the hybrid model from 11 to 12 will have a half hour of lunch and a half hour of recess. So the students that are electing to be at home those 5 days will have that entire hour, and we would recommend the same thing. Lunch for part of that time during that block, along with, movement breaks and some type of, break from screen, break from, thinking, and just letting the students relax during that hour before their afternoon sessions start. So K through 2, it's a very minimal to no change at all. Here's the breakdown for kindergarten through second grade in terms of which students have elected for the hybrid model, which students have elected for learn at home, and then I'll get to the lunch stuff in a second. So you'll see on the left-hand column, you have shift A. So they're calling it shift A, which is the Monday, Tuesday shift, shift B, which is the Thursday, Friday shift. And then, as I mentioned, everyone is at home on Wednesday, including the staff. And Wednesday will look pretty similar to what it looks like now. You can see the bottom two columns is the lunch area in terms of where they'll be eating, and then the lunch order in terms of if they will have recess or lunch first. So again, this is more for the students that will be in the building, but we can definitely have the students at home mirror the same schedule as well. So if they want to eat at the first half of the hour, or do some type of movement break at home, decompress a little bit and then eat the second half, that's something that is totally welcomed. So you'll see the numbers at the top. As I said in the LSC meeting the other day, we have about, if you add up all of the numbers, we have about I think I said 8.6 at the LSC meeting. It's actually like 9.2. So the average class is 9.2 students in there. So you'll see some of them are closer to that 15 threshold. You have 104, which is at 15 each. Obviously, we know our 2 kindergartens are 2 of the bigger classes in the school. And then you get into the first grade, Miss Gustafson in 103, Miss Haig in 106, and Miss Karasik in 107. They have 6 kids on Monday, Tuesday, with the other 12 and 7. So the 12 kids that would be there Thursday, Friday are still doing exactly what they're doing now, signing on to their Google Meets. You have your reading Google Meet in the morning. Then you have your, I don't have the first grade schedule off the top of my head, but then you have, I think they split into their departmentalized classes. So Ms. Haig teaches social studies, Ms. Gustafson science, Ms. Karasik writing, and so on. So, and we'll get more into the teaching models in terms of what that's going to look like specifically, but this gives you a little bit of rundown in terms of the amount of students that will be in which model moving forward. So this is the K2 one. The lunch area, so you see kindergarten is homeroom. The HR stands for homeroom. And then first grade is CAF and second grade is homeroom. So again, this is 1, to appease the social distancing guidelines and make sure we're adhering to everything and all of the safety measures. But 2, to give us the best model for supervision so that we can have our special education aides, our teacher assistants, miscellaneous aides, help with that supervision and watch over these students while the teachers are also doing their duty-free lunch period as well. So first grade will always eat in the cafeteria. Kindergarten will always eat in their homerooms. Second grade will always eat in their homerooms. And then you'll see kindergarten and second grade go out to recess second, whereas first grade is going out to recess first. So and it's 30 minutes each. So I'm sure there's going to be questions about that. Hopefully they'll get cleared up as the presentation goes on. But if not, I'm more than happy to kind of address some of this data at the end as well. So I'm going to just kind of keep moving on here. So you have the intermediate schedule. We know third and fourth grade is probably our most, it's the one schedule that was a little bit different. And the only reason is that there's 3 third grades and 3 fourth grades, and they are departmental. So they were the one class and the one grade band in the entire school that didn't start on the hour at top of the hour. And the reason being is you have Miss Calvert, who is our 4th grade ELA teacher. So she teaches language arts to 4th grade. Miss McKenna is the 4th grade math teacher. And then you have Miss Kresmer and Mr. Tater, who teach both 3rd and 4th grade on kind of a block scheduling format. So their classes are an hour and 15 minutes to accommodate that. So they're the one kind of outlier in the school. But again, their schedule really doesn't change a whole lot either. The only thing that we are flipping with the 3rd, 4th schedule is right now, as it is today, and until the return, there's a 10:15 to 11 a.m. block where all of the 3rd and 4th graders have kind of what we're calling an asynchronous block. So they're doing either language arts or math, usually asynchronous instruction. So they would be maybe completing a WorthyWise page, doing something that the teachers are instructing them to do, and that's more on an independent basis. So that will kind of maintain. The difference is it's now going to be after lunch. So again, in order to accommodate for the supervision, 3rd and 4th will now eat for their hour from 10:15 to 11:15, and then that asynchronous block will just be after lunch to 12. So they still have their 12 to 1:15 class, and then their 1:15 to 2:30 class. And then at the end of the day, it's additional, office hours, homeroom check-ins, an asynchronous thing, anything that they didn't finish up throughout the day. So again, minor changes to the 3rd, 4th schedule, which we're super excited about as well. 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8th, also minimal changes. The one downfall is that they will have kind of their academic schedule before lunch. So again, in order to have this work, we have 5th through 8th eating from 12 to 1 instead of 11 to 12. So they got that pushed back, and then that academic block came forward. So they will have their 4 core classes in the mornings before lunch. And then 5th, 6th has specials 1 to 2, whereas 7, 8 will have specials from 2 to 3. So that just got pushed back an hour. So currently, how they're doing it now, 7th, 8th has their specials here, 1 to 2, and then their homeroom SEL after. So this is just being flip-flopped, and then lunch is being pushed back an hour. Same thing for 5th, 6th. So right now, they have lunch here, specials here, and then they have their academic block here, and then homeroom. So that's just being pushed back an hour. So again, minimal changes to the school day, which again, I think that's what excites us the most, is that we can keep the momentum going with what we have accomplished up to this point. All right, here is the third, fourth breakdown in terms of students electing for shift A, shift B, learn at home, and then again, their lunch order as well. So lunch order and lunch area. Now, third through eighth is a little bit different. And the reason I say that is they are departmental, and a lot of them are groups. So we have, if you're aware, if you're a third, fourth parent, you know that we have a 3-1 group and a 4-1 group, and then 3-2, 3-3, 4-2, 4-3. So these are just section groups. But in order to keep those groups consistent, we are basically, instead of, you look at these guys, they're basically going to be in these shifts, and the shifts were done alphabetically. So one of the questions is, when will we know? One of the questions at the end is, when will we know what shift we're in? So that will be released on Tuesday, January 19th. We have to do some Aspen scheduling changes, but just to give you a little insight, this is done alphabetically. So let's say your student is in room 103 with Miss Gustafson. These 6 kids are towards the top half of the alphabet. So I would guess these kids are probably in that A to N range based on if they elected for hybrid. These kids would be in that, M or N, to Z range. And then to learn at home kids, they're kind of mixed all over because they're at home all 5 days. So just to give you a little insight in that. So the 3-1 groups is basically going to look the exact same. So all we're going to do is do a quick little Aspen change. Whereas instead of saying 118, Miss Gustafson's homeroom, it'll have a 3-1. So Miss Gustafson will be in charge of 3-1, and then they'll report to 118, and we'll put 118 in parentheses. Same thing with 3-2, 3-3, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, and then 5th through 8th is the same way. So again, that's just to give the teachers, like I said, the teachers have worked really hard. The students have worked extremely hard in terms of achieving the learning we've done, and we want to keep that going. So we didn't want to do any teacher reassigning. We didn't want to do any group reassigning, because to us, that feels like it's more like a substitute kind of taking over. Our teachers know the kids, they know their strengths and weaknesses, and we want to keep that going, and build on what we've established up to this point. You'll see I'm saying building on and momentum a lot, because that's been our kind of keywords in our staff meetings. So, and then you have third, fourth, same thing. 3rd grade will always eat in their homerooms. 4th grade will always eat in the CAF. Recess first for 3rd grade, recess second for 4th grade. And then here's the breakdown for 5th, 6th. So you'll see Miss Beastie now as the 5-1 group instead of 206, and so on and so forth. Mr. Krisich is here from his Hadfield, so he has 227, but he will have the 6-2 group. So this will help us with taking attendance. This will help us with, in years past and last year pre-COVID, the students would report to their homerooms, and then we really didn't start the departmental day until about 8:10. Well, now we don't really want to start at 8:10. We want to start right at 8 o'clock. Those students that are in Miss Critch's class, I think he has the 5-2 group first period, we want them signing on right at 8. We want to keep that consistent. So he's gonna be responsible for 6-2 in terms of a homeroom base, but he will have access to the attendance for the 5-2. So although Mr. Chuchi's here assigned his 5-2 group, Mr. Krisich will have attendance capabilities. So right at 8 o'clock, he can take attendance for these 12 that he has in front of him, with the additional 23 that he has remotely. Okay? And again, more to come on the teaching models and what that's going to look like. But this gives you a little bit of context in terms of the students. So again, their lunch got pushed back an hour and their specials got pushed back an hour. Only change for them, which makes the at-home kids, these 11, 13, 11, 14, it makes it super easy for them. We want to make sure that, all of our students are getting the same education they've gotten up to this point. So that allows us to do that. And then you have the 7th-day schedule. So again, the one thing is it's not ideal to have them having 4 core classes in a row. The teachers were okay with it. They talked about building in asynchronous time within so that it's not 4 consecutive screen time hours, potential movement breaks, hey, let's get up and stretch for 5 minutes. So that's all going to be taken into account. But again, the reasoning for this was the lunch and supervision so that we can accommodate having eyes on these students while they're eating and while they're at recess. And here's the breakdown for them. So again, you see similar things. Mr. Lundeck's usually responsible for his homeroom 221. He's now responsible for 8-2. So a little bit of change, but very minor. 7th grade will always eat in their homerooms. 8th grade will always eat in the caf. They will have recess together, and then they will all eat lunch second. So again, that gives us that changeover to make sure we can disinfect the cafeteria, and all that stuff, which information to comment on that. All right, so this is probably the biggest change. For everyone, this will be the biggest change. So Wednesday, as we know, is our full remote day. And basically CPS knows that this transition is going to be a lot for teachers. It's going to be something that they, haven't done before in terms of simultaneous teaching. So in order to give them the proper planning time and make sure the quality of education, the quality of teaching is at our standard, one at CPS, but even more so at Sauganash, they've elected to shorten the bell schedule. So the teacher's schedule is not changing. They're still required to work their amount of time, but the bell schedule for students will change. So this is an example. Think of this as like an example for our 7th, 8th. So you have your 7th, 8th schedule here. I basically did an example based on 7th, 8th. This will look a little bit different for K4 basically. So what they're doing is all synchronous instruction will take place before lunch. So Wednesday, we will go back to our normal, everyone eating lunch 11 to 12. So it'll be an at-home lunch block from 11 to 12. The teachers will also be at home. They'll eat from 11 to 12, and then meetings and planning time will take place in the afternoon. But let's say, for example, this is a 7th to 8th class. What we're doing is we're calling 4 40-minute academic blocks or 180 minutes of synchronous instruction. So this is all virtual teaching led by the teacher, very similar to what it looks like now, identical to what it looks like now, actually. But instead of it being, an hour of math with Miss French, it's now only 40 minutes. So let's say, for example, these students in 7th, 8th, they would have Miss Murphy for language arts first. Then they would go Miss Trainer, 8:40 to 9:10 for science, social studies with Mr. Lundak, social studies writing, and then finish with Miss French. Then they would have special for a half hour. So the special is normally the full hour, but it's still 30 minutes of synchronous, which is virtual. So remember, synchronous is the virtual, asynchronous is, non-virtual, more independent. So it is a shortened bell schedule. So let's say, for example, let's take 3rd, 4th. They have special first, right? So they normally have Mr. Lopez or Mr. Zumbalin or Miss Court, Miss Askovich, Miss Cerna, or I'm forgetting one, Mrs. Kelly, first period. So that would now be 8 to 9:30, or 8 to 8:30. So it'd be a half hour of their special block, and then they would go, this schedule will be released. We haven't created it yet, but then they would have, maybe 40 minutes with Miss Calvert, 40 minutes with Mr. Tater, 40 minutes with Miss McKenna. Then they have their lunch, and everything will lead up to that 11 o'clock stop. So it'll be 11 o'clock lunch for everyone. And then the teachers will assign stuff via Google Classroom and explain and give directives for the afternoon. So yes, the students will be independent in the afternoon, but they will have a concrete guidelines as to what they're supposed to complete. All right, so now let's get into a couple pictures that we have of the building and some of what I'm calling non-negotiables. So I want to give a shout out. I don't know if there's any 7th or 8th grade parents, mostly 8th. We had a couple 7th and 6th graders that did take the NWA. So we had 34 students in our building on Tuesday, and we had another 29 in our building yesterday to take the NWA. These students did a remarkable job. They followed the guidelines. They came in masked up, quick scan of the forehead. Masks were on the whole time. 0 issues. They were socially distant. I was so proud. We were so impressed. The biggest thing is the health screener is not Miss Court and Miss Maria and Miss Munns and Pecoraro were kind of, we want it to be more streamlined and a little bit, maybe not less questions, but a little bit user-friendly, because a lot of these 7th, 8th grade students were doing the screener themselves. But the screener is really designed to be done by the parent. So what was happening is a lot of our students were being counted as visitors instead of students, which is fine. But the problem is then it doesn't show up in Aspen. So the decal you'll see at the bottom, the green, yellow, red, when we take attendance, it will show a green icon next to the student based on if they pass the screener. It will show a red icon, indicates that they shouldn't even be in the building that day. So maybe that's the day that they're remote, or maybe it's a student that's always remote. and then the yellow indicates that they didn't do the screener yet. So again, there'll be more guidance on this. We're gonna make it super streamlined and user-friendly in terms of how we want it filled out. And it is user-friendly. It's just, I think there's a couple things. I said, the example of when you have a doctor appointment and they text you, I said, I wish, and then you just press Y to confirm you're going. I said, I wish it was something like that. So, we have some stuff we're going to ask Julie McGlade, our network chief, next hour. But anyway, here are the non-negotiables. The health screener completed prior to building entry. So this is only done on the days your student is coming to school. This does not have to be done the days they are not in school. Temperature check upon entry. So the temperature check will be done, probably 15 to 30 feet once they get in the building so that we're not doing some type of log jam. And we'll talk more about the entry in a second. Mask wearing in all spaces, 200 plus kids in the building, 55 staff members. So again, remember that we, last year at our peak, we had 667 kids plus about 63 staff members. We have 55 full-time staff members and then a couple half-time, or, I didn't include the night janitors and stuff like that. But we're going to be operating at about 211 kids on Monday and Tuesday and 202 kids on Thursday, Friday. So that's a third of what you're used to operating in terms of operationally. So, my confidence level in terms of us adhering to all the guidelines, following all the procedures in the building are very high. I know that, we'll be able to do that effectively, efficiently, safely. And, that's something that we're getting all of our ducks in a row to make that happen. And yesterday and Tuesday were a great dry run. Yeah, it was only 34 kids, but, it was awesome to kind of, see the students in the building. You could just tell they were lighting up when they could see their friends and stuff. So more information to come on some of the cleaning processes. But everything, Airmark and Mr. Carlos, Mr. Angel, they got checklists. So there's, very stringent protocols in terms of cleaning, on the hour, every hour, especially shared spaces like doorknobs, railings, bathrooms, et cetera. So all of that stuff will be, highly looked after and, a lot of attention on that type of stuff. All right. We will be doing, this is potential. We haven't really finalized the door entry, but most of the kids will come in the same door. We do have 7th and 8th grade entering the back door that they normally exited, kind of by the dumpster area. So our goal is to, have less students coming in. We are also, so you'll see this is about door 1. Let's say, for example, we had door 1, which would be 24 students on Monday, Tuesday, 23 students also on Monday, Tuesday, and then after the slash would be the Thursday, Friday students. What we're also doing is like a soft opening. So instead of, 8 o'clock, you open the doors and the flood rushes in, we would be doing like a 7:50 soft opening. So as kids got there at 7:50, 7:52, 7:53, 7:54, 7:55, and so on, we would kind of let them in, do the temperature check, and then they would be lining up in front of their classroom lockers, at a cone. We had poly spots on the floor so that everything's socially distanced. And then we'd have some like hallway monitors to kind of, monitor and prompt the students and, give those reminders. But yeah, the doors would be roughly the same. We just want to make sure there's, no log jams, no bottlenecking and stuff like that. COVID reporting and contact tracing. I'm going to come back to this slide just because it's not really, it's going to kind of take us off our flow. So I will come back to this slide. Okay. Let's go into the teaching models. Let me get a sip of water here. I'm sure I'm talking insanely fast. It's something I've tried to work on in 2021, but there's a lot to cover too. So, all right. So the teaching models. So I use Miss Gustafson's 3-1 section as an example. So she would have 9 kids on Monday, Tuesday, 8 kids on Thursday, Friday, and the other 9 that are learning from home all 5 days. So I did some bullet points kind of role playing it. So Monday, Tuesday, Miss Gustafson would have 9 students in front of her. She would instruct them to go to Google Classroom she would be utilizing an additional device or the extended feature to view the 17 remote kids. So what I mean by that is either Miss Gustafson, okay, thanks Elaine. So Miss Gustafson, she could either do what we call an extended feature. So you go to your settings on your laptop where it's called extended. So basically what the students are seeing on the TV in the classroom is not the same as what you're seeing on your laptop. So teachers can either have the 17 kids in front of them on their Dell laptop, and then this whatever she's in present mode, the students in front of her, the 9 in front of her, would see that on a TV, and then also the 17 would see that at home. So let me give it a little bit more context to that. So remember, the 8 students that are in shift B are also at home. So she has 17 kids remote, and she has 9 in front of her. I know this sounds daunting. I know this sounds overwhelming. I know this sounds scary. I've done a lot of reading on this. Mrs. Munns and I have done a lot of talking on this. I actually did go to Notre Dame college prep, which I used to coach there. So, I had a couple connections. I asked if he could give me a tour and I can come in and see some stuff. They've been doing this simultaneous teaching model since August 23rd. And I talked with the history teacher there for about 45 minutes. And he said, for us, it was the hardest because we were never used to teaching kids remotely. He thinks that our transition will be mightily easier because we've already mastered, and I say mastered because I truly believe the teachers have mastered the remote teaching. Bumpy at the beginning, but I feel like we've made adjustments along the way that have really gotten us to a great point. So for him at Notre Dame, he had 15 kids in front of him with about 13 to 17 remotely. So for them, it was finding that happy medium of giving the kids the attention at home that they need in addition to the kids in front of us. So the kids in front of us will not be on the Google Meet for a variety of reasons. One, we don't want echoing. One, we don't want, if those students talk, there's some type of delay with the kids at home. So the only one that will be on the Google Meet in the facility of the, 25-foot by 35-foot classroom is the teacher. The 9 students in front of Ms. Gustafson will be on all of the same platforms. They will just not be in the live Google Meet. So we did do a test run. Ms. Gustafson, Ms. Court, myself, and Ms. Murphy, our 3rd and 4th grade, Katie Murphy, was at home. So what we did is we held up the laptop at the teaching station. So Ms. Gustafson stood at the teaching station next to the TV. She broadcasted her screen. Me and Ms. Court sat socially distant in the room, 6 feet apart. And then Katie was able to talk. We were able to hear Ms. Murphy through the computer. We're going to practice it with the teachers when they come back on the 25th. But in watching Notre Dame do it and watching different videos online, I know it sounds daunting. I know it sounds overwhelming, but remote learning with, all 33 or all 27 at the beginning, it also sounded daunting and overwhelming. And, we got through that. So, my confidence level is there. And we believe that, this is just going to be, yes, it's going to be different, but there's no reason that we cannot, have the same success. So let's go to the second bullet point. So the 9 students in front of her are hearing everything she says in person. So the reason is we don't want them with headphones on a Google Meet because then they're hearing it out of her mouth, through their ears, and then they're getting it through their headphones on a 1.5 second delay. So they don't need to be on the Google Meet. They don't need to have headphones in because they're hearing it out of the teacher's mouth. So it would be, let's say, for example, Ms. Gustafson has her class, her second period, 3-1 group from 9 to 10:15. So the 9 students in front of her and the 17 at home, she's standing at her teacher stand. So she would be standing. The kids would still be very device-centric, the 9 in front of her and the 17 at home. And let's say she goes through like a 25 to 40-minute lesson on, whatever they're doing, fractions or whatever the unit is. The remaining time, let's say she wants to make asynchronous. So what she could do, there's a couple options. She could either dismiss and close out the Google Meet and tell the 17 at home, okay, guys, it's now 9:35, 9:40. I want you to sign off. Please complete the evens on page 137 and also complete the exit ticket in Google Classroom before your next class. Meanwhile, the 9 in front of her would be doing the exact same task. And then that's where Ms. Gustafson would be able to give them, a little bit more attention because the 17 are doing something more independent, whereas the 9 in front of her are also doing something independent in their math workbook and maybe on their device to complete the exit ticket. So let's go to the next slide here. We know the breakout function has been something we've used a ton, and we don't want to go away from that. So there are options within that. If they wanted to have the breakout session during the, 9 to 9:40 slot when she has them, she could simply split the 17 remote kids into a 6-6-5 Google Meet, and they would be able to collaborate with each other while she has the 9 in front of her as the 4th breakout room. And then they can all come back together, All right, she brings the 17 back into the whole group. The 9 are still in front of her. Hey guys, let's converse on, you know, these 2 problems. What did your group find out? Blah blah blah. We also have the recommendation, because the teachers do like using the breakout rooms, the kids love the breakout rooms, is really, you know, dedicating time on that Wednesday all virtual day to really be utilized for the breakout rooms and use that popular Google function that's so easy to use. So again, I know there's gonna be questions about this. We know it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. We're not gonna sit here and tell you it's not, but you know, the way I've seen it done, and the way the teachers will, you know, will practice with it before it goes into effect, you know, our confidence level is very high. All right, and I know there's gonna be questions on this, but I am gonna go into kind of our next phase, which is more about the building and, you know, other protocols, and then I'll get into the Q&A. All right, we do have the hallways and the building completely waxed, sanitized, done. One thing I did not take is, I didn't take a picture of it and put it in the PowerPoint, but if you know from a hotel, you have that little doorknob thing that goes on your door. It says, please do not disturb. CPS provided those for every classroom, every room in the building. And one side says not cleaned and it's black, and the other side is green and it says cleaned. So that is one of the things that they are doing to show that rooms are cleaned. So I'll add that to the deck. I just don't have it in there now, but I just thought of it. So you'll see we have one-way staircases. In the old building, you have the staircase, which is probably the one that many of you have used in parents. It's the first one right by the elevator. That will be a one-way staircase going down, whereas the other staircase by Miss Yadao and then the second grade room upstairs, that will be a one-way staircase going up. And then you see the decals on the ground. So the students will be walking outside, you know, as close to the lockers as possible, using the decals on the ground so that they are, you know, socially distanced, spread apart. Lockers will not be used for students for, you know, the reasons of, you know, sharing and all of that. So there will be no locker use this school year. Here's a girls' restroom. So you'll see many of those doors will be locked and they'll be not in use. So every other stall is used. Bathrooms are cleaned on the hour, at the hour. So that gives you a little insight on what that looks like. Here's the men's bathroom. So you'll see, you know, one stall is closed off. The urinals are taped off, not in use so that they can, you know, socially distance and spread out. Drinking fountains as well. So again, huge shout out to our PTO, because without those water bottle fillers, we would have no drinking fountains for the students. Water bottle fillers are allowed. So we have one on each floor. You'll see there. And then the kids are, you know, encouraged to bring their own water fountain, or excuse me, water bottle. You'll see the decals on the ground. So it says, please wait here. You know, giving the kids, and this is something we're gonna have to train the kids on. You know, this isn't something that they're gonna come in the first day and, you know, we're just gonna expect them to know it. We understand that this is gonna take some training. This is gonna take some practice, but you know, everything's very clearly labeled and marked, and it should allow us to follow all the procedures effectively. So they have IntelliPure purifiers, which they purchased for all the schools and all the classrooms. We have not received all of them because they were focused on the Wave 1 schools, the pre-K and cluster schools that have started this past Monday. We have only received 7 up to this point, but we've gotten shipping confirmation on many more coming. So that's in the pipeline for us to receive in the coming week and possibly early next week. Okay, so here's the cafeteria setup. So we did use this. I had 24 kids in here yesterday testing with me. Miss Munns had another, you know, 11 or 12 in Miss Kresmer's room testing in there. So we are using these 4-foot by 2-foot science tables. So they're socially distanced apart. There is about 6 or 7 feet, really 8 feet from where the students are sitting. So there's about 6 feet from the table. But then if you know, take from the middle of the table where the student's sitting, it's about 8 feet, and then even more in between each of the rows. So you'll see the large space in between each of the rows. Those will be cleaned off, you know, excessively throughout the day. The other thing is, and I'll come back to that, but about like the air circulation. So if you see on the ceiling right here, Angel and Carlos have the ability through their computer system to, in the new building and the old building, to basically open the outside air and bring it in. So that's going to be at the highest possible 100% level so that we can get full air circulation in terms of bringing that outside air in, recycling the air that's in the calf and blowing it out, in addition to the provided air purifiers that CPS is giving us. Here's a primary classroom. This is Mrs. Karasic's room. So you can see the desks are kind of staggered and also 6 feet apart. There are beanbag chairs in the back. Those will not be allowed. So there's no soft cloth items allowed. So no beanbag chairs. I know a lot of the second grade team had a lot of alternative seating, couches. Ms. Bertini had a bunk bed. None of that stuff will be allowed for the foreseeable future. So it's only, hard finish material that is easy to clean and sanitize. This is Ms. Kresmer's room. So this was used for testing. And again, you can see the spatial awareness between the desks. So the students will have desks. Kindergarten, normally, and first grade sometimes had tables. Tables are no more. Everything is desks. So Miss French's room, so you can see a junior high classroom. Again, same concept. Right now, Miss French, we just actually got this TV put in last week. So that's why the desks are facing this way toward the whiteboard, because the TV, that was an old school starboard. So excited to have the True Touch TVs in every room. All right, so then we get to PPE and cleaning products. So Miss Maria has been, diligently collecting, not really collecting because it's all provided by CPS, but organizing all the PPE and cleaning products. So wipes, sanitizing wipes, all of that stuff, so that every room has it and an abundance of it. Gloves, temporary masks. Every student will be receiving 3. They're cloth. They're like this. If you look at my screen, it's navy blue, double line cloth. So every student will receive 3 of those. Every teacher will receive 3, and those are washer friendly. So throw them in the wash and dryer with your normal load of laundry. If by chance something happens where they spill on it or something, we'll have, the temporary not reusable masks available. They put touchless hand sanitizer stations in every room as well in the hallway, so that you don't really have to touch any pump. You can just throw your hand underneath, and then the sensor kind of splashes it into your hand. Here's one of the sanitizing machines that they use. So that is, again, new, provided by CPS to help with the sanitizing and the coats. I'm missing a picture here. I don't know where it is, but that was a picture of the care room. So they have, different new items that they've given us. So I will add that to the deck when it comes. Again, I understand the questions are probably building, and I appreciate your patience. I'm going to go through the Q&A of the questions that were submitted. And then, as time permits, we'll get into some chat questions, or you can unmute. I do want to go back before we do that to the COVID protocol. So the CPS is doing weekly testing for staff. So this is something that 25% of staff will be tested once a week. So everyone will be tested basically once a month unless they opt out. So we're utilizing room 205, which was an old special education room. So that will be like our second care room in addition to COVID testing. So what happens is Mrs. Munns and I will get an email 24 hours in advance and saying the COVID testing team is coming to your school tomorrow. And then they'll have a list. So it might be me and 15 teachers. They grab us for testing. It's a quick swab. And then they go back to, teaching. If there is a discrepancy with the test or a potential positive test, Mrs. Munns and I are considered the runners. So what happened is we would go cover their classroom. They would be asked to come back to room 205 for a PCR test, and then they would be sent home. So let me go over a little bit, and this is all in your deck as well. So again, if you can imagine, every Thursday, let's say, for example, 15 of us get tested. I do not have a picture of the kindergarten classroom. I will add that to the deck, though. It looks very similar to the primary, the picture that Miss Cross's class was. So here's a little rundown of the protocol. So let me blow it up for you. And then, again, you can look at this on your own, too. But it gives you a little bit of insight in terms of, so presumptive positive test would result in the personnel sends the school runner to notify the CPS employee of next steps. They will return to the testing room, which is 205, take the PCR test, and then they're asked to leave the building and isolate until they get the PCR test back, which is 1 to 2 days. For a negative test, it's a return to school. For a positive test, the protocols are down here. So same thing for students here. Students follow this protocol here. Again, I know there's going to be lots of questions about this too. So I know there's some Q&A at the end that will refer to this as well. If we go to the other reporting tool, this would be a reporting tool. So let's say, for example, mom or dad come home with a positive test on the weekend. You would self-report you would fill out the self-reporting tool. This is for a positive test. So this is not saying, grandma tested positive and I was with her, so I may be positive. This is, I have a confirmed positive case in my household or in someone that's coming in the building, not in someone in the household. So it has to be a confirmed, hey, this person tested positive, and then you would fill out the self-reporting tool, and then the contact tracing begins. So they do give you, insights into here. After we receive the report, a CPS contact tracer will begin an investigation to determine if an ill person was in a CPS building while contagious, who they have been come in contact with. And then contact tracing begins. So let me go back to the deck and let me kind of show here. So if you look at this last bullet point, so remember, the students will all have assigned seats and they're not moving throughout the day. So I know I haven't touched on all of this, but the students are staying in their rooms. It's not like the departmental where they're going to Miss Kresmer's room, then going to Mr. Tater's room, then going. The teachers will be on a rotating schedule. So I know there's a lot of questions on that in the Q&A, so that will be discussed. But if you look at this last bullet point, it says a close contact is someone who has been within 6 feet for someone who tested positive for COVID for more than 15 minutes, even if they both have masks on. So that's where the seating charts and all of that will come into really helpful when it comes to the contact tracing. So, hey, was this student 6 feet? Did they follow the protocols? And then the contact tracing will begin to, go down the list and see, well, we know these 12 kids were in the room with them. Where are they sitting? Who was the potential contact? And it goes from there. So a lot of that is done through CPS. It is not done through Sauganash. We have to follow the CPS protocols that are given. Maybe 45 minutes wasn't enough for this presentation, but we're going to keep kind of going through. So let's get to the Q&A, and then I will readdress some of the COVID protocols. All right. Will classes be live streamed for days where students are learning from home? Will siblings be put in the same pod or shift as each other for same learning days? Yes and yes. So if you are a parent who you elected your kids for fully remote all 5 days, nothing should really change for them. It should look identical to what it looks like now. If you elected for hybrid, the difference is they'll be coming into the building 2 days. But I really assure and want to remind everyone that, due to the awesome progress we've made, our goal is to keep everything very similar to what it's doing now. So that is the plan, and that is how we envision it. And I don't see us going away from that plan or anything like that. So, think of it very similar. The biggest adjustment is going to be from the teachers. They're going to be there. They have more changes than the students, right? So the students, it's very similar to what they're doing now. Yes, siblings will be in the same shift. So if you have 3 children, they will all be coming Monday, Tuesday. If you have 2 children and you're towards the end of the alphabet, they will all be coming Thursday, Friday. So that is how we did the shifting. How will kids be appropriately spaced out when it comes to classrooms relatively small? So again, remember that our average class size is about 9.5, 9.3. So teachers will be in their, will the same teachers be their teachers or new ones? So CPS did give schools the autonomy to reassign teachers. We thought that was a horrible idea. We just did not like, to us, that was very sub-centric. That was like having, a sub in the room for the foreseeable future. Miss Trapp has her students for reading and math. She knows their strengths and weaknesses. We did not want to take that away and, reassign someone else to do that. So we were very steadfast when it came to keeping that the same. Will new teachers need to be added to accommodate the number of kids wanting to learn? No new teachers are added. CPS did grant us 2 additional positions. So what they did is they granted us 2 additional miscellaneous aid positions, which will help support students. They may help support lunch supervision, and then 2 cadre positions. So a cadre is basically a building sub. So the 2 building sub people would basically have a schedule that they would follow. And then on a day where a teacher was sick or ill last minute, that cadre would fulfill that person's duty. So they would follow the sub plans and go from there. So we did get 4 total positions, 2 additional. And I know Mrs. Munns and the PTO talked about a potential of 2 additional PTO aides, or 1 based on an as-needed basis once we, get through the hiring process of the other 2. All right, when will we be notified as to which 2 days our children are scheduled to be in person? So you'll be notified on January 19th. So again, remember, there's no school on Monday for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So that Tuesday, we're going to do our best to get an email out from Aspen saying your student is in shift A or shift B. The only thing, it's pretty alphabetized in terms of the front of the alphabet being Monday, Tuesday, the back of the alphabet being Thursday, Friday. The only difference is when we got to 3rd through 8th grade and we're really going towards the 3-1 and 3-2 group, 3-3 group, it did get where we just had to go back and cross-check to make sure all the siblings were accounted for. So shout out to Miss Vicky and Miss Maria for kind of, taking the lead on that. What are some improvements being made to internet access and bandwidth? So CPS has continued to roll out options for the internet program, both free and at low cost. It's called the Chicago Connected program. At the beginning, when this first came out, there were only like a handful of families that were even eligible. They've increased that like tenfold. So I'm not going to click on the link now, but please click on the link if you're interested in seeing what type of internet upgrades you can make and see if your kid or family would be eligible based on those services. Our children's going out for, excuse me, my mouth is like all cotton mouth. If our children going out to recess, will they be required to keep masks on at recess? So yes, 30 minutes of each, recess and lunch. Ms. Ramos, I will answer that question in a second. I think it's on a future slide. Thank you for clarifying. Students will remain in their pods at lunch and recess as well. So again, we understand that a lot of people elected for hybrid based on that, social interaction, which we're super excited for. But that social interaction is also contingent on following all of the protocols. So the 6 feet distance, staying in their pods, and so on. So if using Mrs. Gustafson's example, in 3rd grade, she had 9 kids in front of her. Those 9 would be pretty much with each other the entire day. For all their classes, they're not moving. For lunch and recess, they're sitting in their pods, whether it's in the caf or in their homeroom. And then at lunch and recess, they're also in their pod. Face coverings may be temporarily removed only when eating. So when outdoors and socially distancing of at least 6 feet can be maintained. So that's a tricky one for us, just because the level of supervision that we are going to have at recess is not going to be, adults standing on top of each pod at recess. So the recommendation is going to be for us, for the kids to keep the masks on at recess. If they need a mask break or something and, they walk a lap around the track, we're going to coach them through that. But in order, for us to not micromanage and, make sure we're really going to the recommendation is going to be the mask stay on, just because it does get hard for us to prove and maintain that at recess. And then playing a musical instrument outdoors at least 6 feet. So we don't have to worry about that. Mrs. Cerna is well aware of the music guidelines. Children napping, we don't have pre-K, so we don't have to worry about that. And then staff, the only time they can remove the mask is if they're in their office like me right now with the door closed. So here's what the recess will look like. So let's say, for example, we have, let's go back just to give you a little context into the 7th, 8th schedule. So we know 7th, 8th is all at recess first, right? So that these 4 pods are all at recess first. You have 14, 9, 14, and 12, assuming those numbers hold. Some of those kids may change their mind to do remote. We don't know. But if these numbers hold, we go back to this. They all have recess at the first half of the hour while the 5th and 6th graders are eating, and they come in the second half of the hour to eat. So, for example, the 14 would be here, the 12 would be here, the other 12 would be here, and the other 14 would either be walking the track or using the playground, assuming Angel and Carlos, the only time the playground will be used is if we can confirm that it will be disinfected between uses. So if we know there's time for Carlos and Angel to go out there, otherwise we'll say, hey guys, no playground today. The final group, Mr. Lundek's group, you guys are gonna, walk the track, and then they'll be rotating. So, if they were, here one day, they'll be in a different location the next day. So again, that's to help us with the supervision aspect. Each pod will have a set bag of equipment. So only their pod will use that soccer ball, that Frisbee, that, jump rope, whatever the case may be. Will Right at School be available? So we are not partnering with Right at School for third quarter or any outside vendors for that matter. We want to make sure everything gets off to a smooth start. And then, we'll reassess the potential for vendor partnerships April 19th at the start of fourth quarter. Will no homework policy still hold since we are in hybrid and not back full time? Will 6th through 8th graders need to wear uniforms? We are staying consistent with the work being completed during the school day. We understand it's a long day. We know it's a lot of screen time. So we're not trying to add to that. Students should be able to complete their work during the school hours. Now, if a student is, inattentive during asynchronous time or not doing what they're supposed to, that would be the only time that they have work that has to be completed and the teacher's emailing, hey, you didn't turn this in, and then they're completing it outside the 8 to 3 hours. But, for the most part, our students have done a phenomenal job with that, and, props to them for doing it. And then hopefully they're, screen time free and rest time free, from 3 till the time they go to bed. With the students being in 2 different models and settings, we are not utilizing school uniform for 6th through 8th of khakis and a navy polo. So we didn't think it was fair for the students at home to be, in, sweatpants or a hoodie, and then the kids at school have a different expectation. So there will be no student uniform in terms of the khakis and navy polo for this school year, but you are still required to follow the CPS and Saugus dress code. So, that talks about no, spaghetti strap tops, no sandals, flip-flops, no shoes with roller skates in them, all that type of stuff. So that the dress code guidelines are still intact. Will students be in their seats the whole day? Will the third grade switch classes? Will they have different teachers? So really that occurs. We are some form of departmental, really 1st through 8th grade, because the 1st and 2nd grade teachers do switch a little bit. How will specials work? So think of February 1st transition as a smooth start that mirrors our current schedule. It's really not a lot of change. The same teachers, the same classes, the same routine. Hybrid students will be in their desk the majority of the day, yes. We will build in move-in breaks. They have their lunch and recess. We understand that, but the students will not be moving. The teachers will be on a rotating basis, including the special teachers. So Ms. Askovich teaching STEM will come in to Ms. Gustafson's class to give them STEM. Then when she leaves, she'll wipe down her station. Ms. Gustafson come back in to teach reading, and she, will wipe down the station. So that's kind of what that looks like. That is all my questions. Sorry for talking so fast. I must have skipped this one. How are you handling usage of the restroom, travel in hallways, and lunchroom? So 6 feet CDC guidelines is always the protocol. So they have their student pods will have their assigned bathroom. So again, if you're in Ms. Kresmer's class, the boys will be assigned the bathroom right across the hall as well as the girls. So even if they're in lunch or recess, they should really go to their assigned bathroom. Now, the bathrooms will be cleaned excessively. So if there's an emergency and a student has to use another bathroom, we understand that, and we will, make sure it's cleaned and whatever. But CPS is really consistent with, having the pods have a specific bathroom, and, that's something we're able to accommodate, no problem. The hallways are decaled, as you saw. The lunchroom is only used for set classes. So we got rid of the lunch tables. We're using those science tables. They're socially distanced. The air is blowing at 100% circulation plus 2 air purifiers. The lunch line will still be used. So students will not need to touch anything. They just grab their tray that will be handed by, one of the lunch service personnel in gloves and all of that. So take, for example, before I take some Q&A via the chat, let's go to one of the schedules. So let's say this one, let's say shift A, you have 11, 12, 7, and 8. So that's, 23, 30, 38 kids. So of those 38 on Monday, Tuesday, they will be eating at 12 to 12:30, and then they go to recess after. So of those 38, if 16 need school lunch, it will be them lining up. We have a system in place, and then depending on if they're in 5th grade, they'll go up to their homeroom with their lunch. If they're in the CAF, they will go to one of their seats. So I think that covers pretty much everything. Again, I apologize for the speed of it. But I can answer a couple questions here, and then, I know there's going to be questions mounting, so we can use the Google form for additional questions. Yes, students will be able to join on campus in 4th quarter. You can always opt out. So that is correct. So again, we can't have the hybrid numbers really changing because we're planning based on numbers that we have. So if you are a 5th, 6th grader in this row right here of learning at home all 5 days, you do not have the ability to opt in for hybrid at this point. You will have the ability at the start of 4th quarter or sometime before 4th quarter starts to say, hey, I'm comfortable now. My kid can come back in hybrid. If you are one of these in these 2 rows and you still are not comfortable and you're one of these 12 kids right here and you want to opt out, well, now this goes down to 11 and this goes up to 14. Where are the students from 6th grade having lunch? So 6th grade is eating in the CAF. So we have 35 tables set up in the CAF, 36. So they're in 6 rows of 6, socially distanced apart. So if you use the pole as the centerpiece, one 6th grade group would eat on this side, one 6th grade group would eat on that side. I don't believe HIPAA laws will allow us to tell you if a teacher opts out from testing or not testing. Again, the testing protocol for CPS in terms of the COVID testing, that's also really designed to give them data so that they can see, what type of data they're getting. Are people in the building being infected? What does that look like? So it's really a data thing in addition to a safety thing. If you would like to unmute, Mrs. Munns and I do have a meeting at 10, but I'm happy to stay on for another 6 or 7 minutes to answer any questions, or you can type in the chat. Windows, I see something about windows. It looks like Mrs. Munns answered it. But yeah, all windows will be recommended will be staying open 6 to 7 inches. So, we do recommend if your student is in the hybrid to, bring a sweatshirt because, the airflow is something that we're going to be very big on. So,
what, can I just give an update? Carlos, our engineer, came in and talked to me this morning. The old building is now being hooked up to the new building. So if you recall, CPS had mentioned that all the schools were, taking a look at and making sure that their airflow was up to speed and at the best. So right now, this morning, I came in my office and there's a new sensor in my office that will speak to Mr. Carlos's computer in the new building. So now the old building and new building is mirrored. There is a huge air take. Both, not only did Mr. Kennedy explain that with the cafeteria, we also have a huge, I'm going to say it's like a gigantic chimney that brings in air from the roof of the old building. So the air filters are movable within the classroom. So those are, and you saw that slide. Also, the fan belt will be constantly flowing, as well as the windows will be cracked. So I'm a firm believer in air circulation.
And I was using the cafeteria as an example, but that qualifies for the entire building, the airflow. Mr. Ramos did ask a question about the internet. So in 2018, we were actually one of the first schools to get the highest, fastest upgrade for CPS. So in terms of Chicago Public Schools, we have the fastest internet you could possibly have. You'll see these outlets in each room for the hub. So, internet is not going to be an issue and bandwidth is not going to be an issue at the school level. And then I did not go over this last slide. It says, will students in the classroom be on their computers while in school? Will in-person learning be the same as remote learning except in school? So the in-school students will still be on their devices, yes, but there'll be opportunities to limit it with consumable materials. So like I said in the example with Miss Gustafson, if they're doing page 137 in their math book, they won't need to be on their device. If Miss Gustafson, using that example, or WorthyWise or their grammar book for second, third, and fourth, just going back to the Miss Gustafson example, let's say she wanted to leave these 17 on the Google Meet for the last 20 minutes of class. She can monitor them and ask and hold the Google Meet open in case the kids have any questions, while the 9 in front of them are doing page 137 too. So there's going to be multiple options for them to get the help and assistance from the teacher that they need, whether they're remote or whether they're in person. Yeah, Mrs. Swain, great question. I don't know how I did not answer that. So the kids will be bringing their Chromebook to and from school. Every night, stuff will go home. So, the supply list, unfortunately, I know a lot of people bought this school pack supplies. To make it equitable, it's not really fair to say, oh, you're in person now, you need X amount of materials and X amount of supplies when we're not going to have that same expectation for the kids at home. So it's going to be a very simplistic amount of supplies. So let's say, for example, using 5th grade, Miss Beastie requires them to have a journal. Let's say, for example, unless they're doing it on their Google Classroom. So to and from school, if they are in hybrid, they would bring, their math book, the WorthyWise book, their Chromebook, a couple things to write with, and, maybe any other consumables. But it's not going to be like, oh, we need all these art materials or we need to bring this. The only thing we are going to ask is for not recommendations, but donations of like PPE related materials. So we obviously got a ton from CPS, but you can never have enough wipes and sanitizer, paper towels. So we are going to say, if you're interested in, and we'll have just a bin for that. But there's not going to be this expectation of having, 3 folders, 1 purple, 1 yellow, 1 pink, 2 spiral notebooks, 1 purple, 1 yellow, because we know that's not going to be the same expectations for the students that are at home remotely.
So I'm going to jump in, Mr. Kennedy. A couple of questions that were on there. Ecolab hand sanitizers have been installed in each room. I actually went out and purchased paper towels from Costco because unfortunately the brown paper towels tend to just not absorb. So that's why each teacher, you can see the boxes. Not only does each homeroom teacher, each specials teacher, and each door will have all of it. We do have plenty of hand sanitizer. One of the parents asked, can students bring in their own? Absolutely. Again, it's the same thing, like you can bring in your own water bottle. Switching to another question, devices. CPS devices will come back and forth to the building. We do not want any personal devices in the building. The guest devices are not protected under I shouldn't say protected, but we only want to use CPS devices in and out. So the Chromebooks will be brought in, as well as the workbook. Remember, Monday, you bring them in if you're in shift A, and then obviously shift B, you'll bring those materials in on Thursday and then take them home on Friday.
Yeah, and we know we appreciate and have been super thankful for the families that were using their own device. If you are a student that is using your own device and you elected for hybrid, you will be given a CPS device upon entry. So CPS will not allow any outside devices, as Mrs. Munch just said. So let's say your student was using their own personal Chromebook or maybe mom or dad's MacBook or something like that. They will be given a CPS Chromebook, whether they come Monday and Tuesday or Thursday, Friday, and then that should be their device going forward.
I'm trying to see. I know we've got 5 more minutes, Mr. Kennedy, before we got to jump on our other.
Yeah. And please use the Google form in the newsletter. I'll be very diligent, and Mrs. Munns and I will go over those questions to make sure, I'm sure you guys have stuff that we didn't cover. So Mr. Hantoff asked about wearing masks outside. So the CPS guideline says masks can be removed if they can maintain 6 feet outside. Like I said, with 3 different groups being outside or 4 different groups being outside with, the number of adults we'll have, it just may be very hard for us to stand on top of them to make sure they're 6 feet. So if we all of a sudden say, oh, everyone can take their mask off when we're outside, but then, 2 kids are jump roping and this and that. So yeah, unless we can maintain and guarantee that there is a 6 feet distance and the protocols are followed, then masks really can't be removed. And I don't know that we can guarantee that with the level of supervision that will be out there for 3 different groups or 4 different groups at recess. So there is accommodations for masks based on CPS. It is on the CPS reopening page.
And students that will not or chronically will not wear their masks correctly, there is a discipline process, and ultimately, if it is a severe case, they are asked to be teaching from home, learning from home. So
yeah.
Friendly reminders. I think the biggest thing that the students are going to get used to, and like Mr. Kennedy said, it's all teachable stuff. That the keeping that social distancing at all time is probably going to be the most difficult. And parents, you even know this. Some of you have pods that the students play with each other, that type of thing. Again, the more and more that we can be consistent and just keeping distance, we can still have conversations 6 feet apart. So that's probably going to be a big challenge. The other thing is I want to assure, the nice thing is, one, not only our partnership with PTO and LSC with the administration, we have the technology. Like we talked about, the new line True Touch screens are in each and every classroom. The also beautiful thing that I think Sauganash is ahead of the game at most CPS schools, not only do we have the resources for the technology, but the teachers are well equipped, have gone through the professional development, and way more talented in technology than their principal. So I have great faith in them. You have to remember, we've worked well as a staff. We collaborate, we help. Part of our staff meeting yesterday afternoon is it's a dual